Hi guys, I'm Laura from Colour Inspirations and Design. Welcome to another colour coaching video. Today I'm going to give you my top tips for choosing an exterior colour scheme for a new build. So doing a new build or renovation can be really confusing. There's a lot of choices. So the best thing to do would be work out your priorities, work out what you need to decide on first, what the builder needs to know first as well, and then go from there. Focus on each area at a time and then bring an overall colour scheme together in the end. So in Victoria, you have to actually decide on your colours before the build has even started. So often you have to submit plans to get a permit to build, and these have to include colours. So often people get me in at this stage where I can help with their overall exterior colour scheme nice and early. And then if it's done nice and early, you're ready for your builder for when you are getting started at it and when you're making all those decisions. So another tip is don't leave it up to your architect or builder to make the decisions about colour. You have to actively make sure that these colours they're suggesting are in tune with what you love. Work out what style you love, create a mood board, get some ideas on paper and visual, and work out exactly what you're wanting and make sure their design and colours are in line with yours. If they're not, you definitely have the ability to change, especially if you're doing it nice and early and planned ahead. Planning ahead is really important so you're ready for when your builder asks you for every colour. Usually the exterior colours have to be chosen before anything else because they need to order your roofing and gutters and garage door and things like that. So decide nice and early and then you won't be rushed to make decisions. So I suggest coming up with a whole exterior colour scheme all at once. So you often have to work with ColourBond colours, which will be your gutters, maybe your garage door, maybe your windows, downpipes, things like that. So you often have to choose your ColourBond colours first with the new build, and then from there you can then go on to your render or weatherboard colour and other choices. But often doing it all in one go is really important, because if your ColourBond colour you've chosen doesn't work with anything you like for your wall colour, you're going to end up something you're not really that happy with. So always choose all together, come up with a scheme so you're ready, and I would work with a colour consultant for this unless you're happy to do it yourself. But yeah, just coming up with something you're really happy with. If you find colour really overwhelming, even just stick with ColourBond colours if you want to for your weatherboard and render as well. These can be done in paint as well. They don't have to be just in metal and powder coat. So these are a way of reducing the selection and making it a little bit easier to make a decision. Often these colours do go together as well, depending what you choose. So there's a lot of suggestions out there. So the powder coat and ColourBond choices are actually really important because they will last for more than 25 years. So they've got to be a colour that works in long term with your colour choices, something that's neutral enough so it's really going to work. Yeah, so it's kind of a big decision, which is often why people get so stressed out about it. But really, there are some great colours around. ColourBond Monument's one of the most popular at the moment. That pretty much goes with any colour. It's very, very neutral. Same with ColourBond Basalt. That's a little bit lighter and that goes with everything. Wallaby's really good too, and they're all the ones that are a little bit darker. So they tend to be very versatile to play with other colours. So when choosing your exterior scheme, as I've said in previous videos, always do the lightest colour on the area you want to show off the most, and do the darkest colour on areas you want to hide. So often your roof and gutters are darker, or garage door, because you don't really want them to be a feature sometimes. And things like windows or even the weatherboard itself, you might want to do it a bit lighter to grab more attention. So the lightest colour you can actually do in ColourBond colours is a colour called Surf Mist. That's not a white, but it's very close to it. It's more of an off sort of sandy, stony kind of white. This is a really good colour outside. It goes quite white, and it's a really good colour outside because if you use a pure white outside, it's almost blinding, whereas Surf Mist is just that little bit softer on the eye. That's why ColourBond have designed it like that. So it is a great colour to work with, but you just have to be mindful of matching whites with it. So if you're wanting a white gutter and a white metal fascia, you would have to use surf mist. So therefore your windows, if you're painting them, you might want to match it to the surf mist, or use a colour called Dulux Whisper White, which actually works really well with surf mist. It's slightly lighter, but it's a beautiful white outside, and you probably won't actually tell the difference once the colours are outside. You do lose contrast with colours. So when you're deciding between going dark, medium and light tones, make sure there's enough contrast between your light and your medium and dark, just because when their colours are outside and the sun's directly on them, they're going to lose their colour a little bit, just visually. So you tend to have to go a little bit more contrast than what you're wanting, and then that will sort of create a bit more impact. If you do them too close, often they can actually look like the same colour. So when choosing render colours for a new build, I always start with your ColourBond colours and your window colour. So often windows are darker on render houses. That's sort of just how it goes. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's just because the windows aren't usually a feature on these houses, and also from the inside looking out, you want them to be a bit darker as well. They look fantastic that way. So usually you choose like a mid-tone on your render. My recommendation is not to go too light. If you go too light on render, it just gets really dirty really quickly, and you'll end up having to maintain it a lot more often. So that's my top tip. So I don't really go any lighter than something like ColourBond June, for instance, which is quite a light colour, but I don't tend to go much lighter than that on render personally. Others do, and that's totally fine as well. You can get these paints that are like a membrane that goes over the top of the render, and that protects it a little bit from getting dirt stuck to it and mould. So on weatherboard houses, so new build weatherboards are often looking like more of a classic build. This is a really popular look at the moment, especially like Hampton's look. So often you go a bit lighter on the windows, so do the windows as the feature, because weatherboard homes tend to have nicer framed windows that are a little bit more detailed. They're kind of more the feature of the house. And this lighter window really makes everything pop, and then you can do your facial light as well if you prefer to give that like nice Hampton sort of look with a slightly darker weatherboard. So yeah, it sort of depends on how dark you want to go with how much contrast you want with your windows. One of my other top tips is always with a combination house where you've got weatherboards or lining boards and render. I usually go a bit darker on the renders and really light on the weatherboards, and this adds a little bit of pop, and also when render gets dirty a lot easier than weatherboards. So weatherboards pretty much self-cleaning, so going lighter on those is a really good option, and then going a little bit darker on the render. It's a bit more practical. So when choosing for a brick house, you can actually go to the brick showrooms, and they're really helpful. So go there and have a look around. You can even take samples with you. They often let you bring bricks home as well. And this is so helpful to have handy to bring to a colour consultant, or just have on site so you know what colour you're using. Yeah, so always choose your brick quite early in the project if you can, and then work your colour scheme around the brick. So one of my favourite things to do in a new build is actually introduce timbers, natural timbers or man-made timbers. These warm tones work so well with the neutral colours and the greys we have that are popular right now. So once you've decided on everything, I would 100% write up a whole colour scheme or a whole materials list for your builder. So we call it a colour schedule. So it's telling the builder where all the colours are going. You can use your plans that you have to actually detail where things are going if it's helpful. But even just have a list of what colour render, what colour weatherboard, what colour window, just so you can hand it over to your builder. You've got a written confirmation of those colours, and it just communicates. Thanks so much for listening to my video today, guys. I really appreciate all your support. See you next week for interior colours for a new build.